Good evening, folks. Welcome to another session from the Old Wise Asylum. Ooh, autumn's kicked in, hasn't it? Big time. It's getting darker, colder, but we're having some good days. So how's your week been? It's been good. What's going on is the not. So I thought we'd have a look at what is going on, and just see what it says. What does it tell us? It's quite ridiculous, but there's obviously terrible things going on both sides. It's ridiculous. So, but he says, but are things as they seem? I say not. And if you remember last week, I left you with the idea that, you know, we have all this idea of gods and goddesses, and it's all in their hands. It's nothing to do with us. It's, you know. So, Lord of the Rings gave us a bit of an insight if you're taking on the old mythos of the old British Isles, and that there were a time back when it was handed to man. It was the age of man. And I wonder if, you know, if the last 1,000 years and maybe a bit more have actually been the time of man, and that man at the elite level has chosen to rehash what has been, re-afford it to the gods in order to smokescreen the fact that this is man doing this. This is man doing this to man because the elites want to keep what they've got. Their lifestyle, everything that they've known for centuries. And I have said this before. These guys use psychics. These guys use everything, every trick in the book to see what, as far as they can see, to the point they can actually see who's coming in. They know who's coming in before they come in. So I'm wondering and thinking, and I've thought for a very long time, that there's something coming, or there's something going to take place in the future, when I don't know, that is going to remove the power, the grip on power. Thus, they see their lifestyle. Now, there's many different variations of what that could be, but the two main are that the gods are coming back. So then you're looking at the Anunnaki, the Anun and all that malarkey. Nibiru. So that's one adventure of potential fear that these people, these man has got down here because he knows he's been a bit naughty. And then the other one, of course, is if it is as it's said, that the Earth is actually shifting into different frequencies, and then, of course, there's going to be more frequencies available to us down here. At some point down the line, it's going to get to a point where free energy is going to become available to everybody. The mechanic to it, the means to it, a simple means to extrapolating the energy from the ether, the magnetosphere, or whichever way you want to look at it. Either way, they shit themselves time ago and realised that as it progresses, their time's going to come to an end. So is their lifestyle and all the power. Not in that order. Power first, obviously. So they've rehashed everything in order to bedazzle the masses. So they could build them the system that they decided they needed in order they could keep what they've got. The Masonic system, being the fifth science, is that mechanic, or the main mechanic of the building whatever it is the elite want. But to the masses, recajole them into the farmyard of religions, different belief systems. Yeah, because if you keep them all in opposition at that level, they're not even looking at you up there. So the small, you're so far in the Russian dolls, they can't see you. And the only way you're going to get a glimpse into it in this pyramidal system is by joining these secret societies. And that being the case, it's like, there's elites. I mean, let's just face facts. There are hierarchical. Our systems are arranged hierarchical because people are at different levels of understanding, intelligence, spiritual development, etc., etc. It's a mishmash of lots of different, and so naturally, by definition of that nature, there's going to be an hierarchical system. You can't really escape it. You know what I mean? I mean, communism is this idea that that's how you can escape it, but it's a load of nonsense because it's one thing for you, and they're standing above it, of course, not touched by it. So whichever one you look at down here that they'll give you as, oh, this is the way, guys, this is the one you want to follow. Ultimately, it's not. It's just playing into this Russian doll front. So that the people or the men at the very top who have held these positions, these families, and passed it down for generations, just want to keep that lifestyle. So obviously, either way, whether the Nibiru are coming back, or whether, because if they're coming back, let's say if they're coming back, they're going to tell us all, oh look guys, these guys have been naughty, they've been taking the piss and sorted out. They're going to lose. The other way is free energy. Again, if there's tons of us still here, which is why they appear to obsess with overpopulation. Yet, as to add to more support to what I'm saying, is that so they're pretending it's all in the hands of the gods or God, whichever way whatever your copy is, you're in it, you believe it, right? So in the one hand, they're saying it's all their fault, they want it, that's what they want to do, we're just carrying out what they want to do. Okay, so in one hand they're saying it's all on the gods, they're the power, we're just the minions doing serving. Yet the gods, then you've got to afford the power and the capacity that they are deciding who's being born, who's coming in, what's happening down here. But then in the outer self, in the sense that they're not all of a sudden is overpopulation because they've deemed it. Yet, but the gods are in charge. So who are they actually opposing on that sort of narrative? It's garbage, isn't it? You can see through that if you're smart. On one hand, they're blaming the gods because they need to keep the religions going and that they're just serving in all the different religions at different elite levels. But then, oh dear, the gods don't know what the hell they're doing because we're overpopulated and they've screwed the climate up because there's too many of you. So they're serving gods then on the other hand, they're saying you're crap shit and don't know as much as the elites. You see the nonsense in it, in the narrative, and that is the narrative. Obviously, if you're stuck in one of the copies, you're not going to even recognise what I've just said to you. So let's just suggest it is man's at his time, his age, and he's cocked it up. This is where we're at. So then, no matter what level you're at, you can be as elite as you like. You can be in the midsection. You can be right down at the bottom, which most of us are. Yeah? Is it in any of us interests to follow these uber elites that we can't see? There are very few of them. When if you actually study the literature, they're making it very clear that even many of those who believe they're going to be safe and in aren't. You know what I'm saying? And then, of course, Nostradamus told Catherine de Medici that in the last century, good people were going to gain wealth. So the way they've set about that is, as we discussed last year, creating false IDs, setting up new little empires on that ID, settling that ID, which then means to claim that they have to kill the one that they set up the false ID on in the first place. It's known as a pyramid build. That's what it's known as. And the reason why they need mental health, the reason why they need these mental health institutions, is because that plays a big part in them getting hold of people that they've determined now have to go so they can benefit from the stolen ID system that they've set up. And claiming your mental health, grabbing you into that system and medicating you, that's it, done, finished. Ambulance, again, you can do it in the ambulance. Now they've done the script, it's all down to the bug. So they've set that up there in order to capture everybody's wealth. So if you're wealthy, you really need to start shouting yourself a little bit, because you can guarantee if you have a look in other counties, they'll have an almost identical identity of you in another council tax-paying area. They might change spacing, they might change letter, but it's you. Make no mistake about it. And they've set everything up false on that ID so that they can take your wealth once they knock you off through that false identity. It's clever stuff, exceptionally clever stuff, but it's also very worrying because you can see it playing out in action. I trace this idea back to a very early Jesuit idea about how they set up the hospitals, the care homes, everything like that, so that they could actually take on your inheritance and just basically remove it from you. So I've seen all that kind of stuff as well. So if you look at it in that perspective, so, but, because if it was man's age, yeah, the age of man, then the heavenly forces were there to try and help us, or man, in his own will, and to create what it is he wants to create. Otherwise, the battle in the heavens, as religion tells us, didn't happen, because that was the battle. One said, no, they're not better than me, I'm not bowing down, I'm not going to give them my energies for their own will. Boom, one gets cast out, blah, blah, blah. We had a look at another side of it, the Gnostic side of that story, and the characters within it last week. But you can pretty much see that that's the case, isn't it? So the reason why man's been able to destroy itself to this point, or get itself to this point, is because all the forces have been there in support of man's will, because it was man's age. So interesting stuff if you look at it like that. So then we can say, well, what we're dealing with here is man. We're dealing with elites, but they're man. They've got all the wind and piss and puff out there to tell you that they're representing the gods, or God, whichever copy you find yourself within. They'll tell you everything you need to know to make you think that they are there to serve, and they're higher than you. You must believe, So that's how I'm seeing it. It's man doing this. It's elites of man wanting to keep that, knowing full well that the changes that are coming as a natural consequence of the galaxy, if you may, wherever it's going, take that whatever way you want it as well. It's changing. Everything's changing, and the frequencies are going to be far greater in availability to man, all man. They're terrified. We know what they want to do we not? And we'll have a look at a few pointers just to cement that is actually what we're facing. It's a class war, if you will. It's not a class war that they're created from the bottom up. It's a class war that's been created from the top down. And that everybody that's down, so if you're looking at an elite, even if you're an elite, you're not secure, because ultimately they want you to do your job so that they can ultimately take what you have. Because they don't want anybody. You've got robots coming out everywhere. They're very interesting and strange video on the old Twitter, and one of the royal princesses, I can't remember whether it's Beatrice or Eugenie, a young one, looking exceptionally like a robot. I mean, it's quite ridiculous. It was like, whoa, what's going on here? There's a lot more stuff about masks that are coming out about how some of these world leaders are actually masked up, and you can see some of the lines on the back of the head, the scrunchies at the back of the ears and on down onto the neck. And I've looked at it over maybe a year. I've not been sure about it, you have to be careful. But there may be something in this. This transhumanist agenda might be a lot further on than we may think. And again, we looked at it, or suggested it could be that with that flight attendant and that woman. Nothing else I seem to have found about that, but there has been other incidents which just suggest it, then it could be a psyop. But we have to keep an open mind, if people are coming across these humanoids, it might freak some people out, it's not what everybody's cup of tea, is it? Right, so the story today basically is, let's just have a look at what's happened. We don't even need to make opinion, but we can have a look, we can see what's going on, who's saying what, and see if we can read between the lines somewhat to get a full picture of what they're all up to. So who's on? It says, Mew says, good morning, afternoon, evening, one and all. Hello to Sean. Good evening to you, Mew. Slipknot says, alright Sean, alright everyone, alright Trev. Paul says, good evening Sean and everyone, good evening Paul. House of CCC vibing. Good. PY Music says, evening all, good evening Paul, with the smiling emoji. Lex March says, evening Sean all. Good evening to you. Mew says, is their demise going to be the Phoenix in 246 like Jason predicts? Well, let me just put it to you another way. Given what I've just said, so I've seen this for a long time in my own self, but you just think, yeah, there's more to this than this. Yeah, if they have indeed pulled together what's been in the last ages, rehashed it to represent that to you as still active, to cover the fact that it's it was the age of man from before the Crusades, then isn't that a simulacrum? Isn't that a copy of an original? Now, when I traced this back years ago, what I found was it had value because it was known as futurism. And it was tied around the Jesuit theologies, that they were futurism, historism, as though it's a time and happened. There's two others, and I can't pull them to mind just right now. But futurism was the one that really sounded to me like, everything biblical that they've pulled together and projected into the future is actually the prophecies that were afforded back in the last age up to 70 AD. Yeah, so that's how I've always sort of erred on that side of potential reality, especially because it does seem to be men or man that's running this, male or female, and it has been for a very, very long time. So I would say, is that where you get the truth that simulacrum actually comes into play, that they've took a copy of the last age and projected it into the future age in order that they can hide themselves to ensure that through their time they keep the power into the next time. And the way to do that is just to get rid of everybody else. Yeah, well, why else would they be building robots to do everything? You look at that, how it's made, it's all robotic. Everything now that man used to do, it's robotic. They can keep the gig without the need of our sweat and blood. You know what I'm saying? All the financial games have been built on our right to land, taking offers, and then they've played the funny money game on our sweat and blood. And of course, they're not stupid. And perhaps I've thought that the reason why they think they can get away with it is because what they've set up isn't actually in breach of spiritual law, because they've got everybody to do it. Your ancestors, everybody has carried it out for them. For them, it's an idea, they're projecting it down there, but ultimately it's up to us whether we go with it. And thus, they've got so far because there is no the real spiritual kickback to these people hasn't come to force because everybody is in agreement. And therefore, if, as I've said, that after the gig where they all fell out because the maid cheese said, no, we're all going to put our weight behind man and let him show us what crack is. Fell out, one got cast down here because he said, oh, no, I'm not playing out, that's rubbish, this shit. Yeah, that's why we've got so far, I would suggest. So it could then, let's say, take away the need for you to go beyond the physical scope into La La Land and wonder what is actually beyond, even though, I've studied a lot of stuff in the time, a lot of the Eastern stuff, it does still all water, but it's not exactly going to help you in the here and now, is it? A bit like chasing lizards. It's not really going to help you in your day-to-day, is it? It's an escapism. It's satisfying in order you don't have to face yourself, isn't it? Everything is out there. It's all been set up that way. Oh, look, we'll give you this to play with, that to hope for, that to wish for, that to work for. Just as long as you're not actually dealing with your own nonsense. Because while you're not dealing with your own nonsense, you're playing along to what it is they want you to do. And you've lost your capacity to think intellectually, reasoned, and they can blag it all day long. And thus, again, it comes back on us. So that'd be my take on the game that we're facing today. That it is man that's done this. And they knew the days were numbered because of the natural progression of the earth itself. So I don't know. Let's anyway. So I don't know about whether there's going to be a demise. I mean, the demise is already on, isn't it? I mean, if they can kick this next gig off, they're going to get a whole lot of lads and people consenting to go and kill each other. You've already, the stuff that's going on this week, that they're trying to get this divide in, is ludicrous. It's ludicrous, but they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. They need, you see, jihad from the Quran side is about you struggle against the oppression. Yeah? Don't fight it. That is the fight, that you struggle, you put up with it. knowing that at some point down the line it's going to pop. The Islamist idea of jihad is let's kick everybody's heads in. And of course, they've got enough of that mindset in everybody's country in Europe. They're doing it in the US even as well, it would appear. Canada, Australia, New Zealand. It's that other or false idea of jihad that they're trying to enact, and that's been achieved because these big mosque builders are businessmen. Businessmen tied in at a higher level than everybody else, and thus part of this let's protect our lifestyles, we need to cull these lot. So businessmen are carrying out building mosques, businessmen are bringing in the imams, and imams are putting Muslims onto the false idea of jihad, which again is away from the Quran. So according to the Quran, that would put them in a position of being kafir. But of course, the homegrown guys here, the guys that have been born here for over 70 years now, we've got Muslim communities, we've got long-standing black communities across the country, especially in the cities. And then we've got us natives that have been here for a long time. But so is the black community, let's be quite frank. But let's look at what they've actually just done now. They've completely undermined the Muslim communities with these nut jobs pouring in. The financial side, the next level up, is going to support that side. That's why they've been getting the housing. The black community have just been influxed by a load of Africans that don't know their ass from their elbow, apart from me kick you, me fight you. So the white honkies, us guys, have been undermined by everybody. That's the way it is. But you guys, you being undermined yourself because this crazy ideology is what they're trying to get, so it takes over your day-to-day on England. You know what I'm saying? That's how it's working. So it depends on homegrown guys here. Where are you with this? Do you want to go into that and under that shit? You know, the thing that your parents signed up to Empire for, which brought you here, because England didn't bring you here, the Empire brought you here. But the English accepted it. You know what I'm saying? We went with it. We have to be acknowledged for that. But, you know, this is what's happening. They're actually undermining what we all had as our communities and having it taken over with this new ideology, that the stuff from Africa for the blacks and these fruitcakes from all over frigging shop for Muslim communities. Just as they did in Bradford that George Galloway covered, importing all the Taliban boys and all the guys that had been working with the NATO forces in Afghanistan against their own back here. They took over the drugs by killing a lot of the drug dealers, the own, you know, English Muslim drug dealers, drug deal into their own communities, or got them wished off into long jail spells and took it over. And that's what they're trying to do. And this is what we've witnessed in this last week or so, or more than a week now, isn't it? Is that, it's nearly 2 weeks, isn't it? That is what they kicked off, so that's the kick-off. You know, that is what they're up to. They want the division everywhere because it's the strategy for the Third World War as given by Albert Pike. So we're going to do it ourselves. I don't think, if there's too many people stuck into this nonsense, we'll probably do it ourselves, way before 2046, I'd have thought. Where are we? And it says, I'm all good, mate, alright, because you're chatting. Okay, no worries. So, anyway. Yeah, alright, super. Right, so I thought we'd have a look. We'll kick it off with this, because this is important. If you grasp the foundation for this, let's say, exploration that we're going to do tonight. It's propaganda. To be successful must be aimed at the total population and not at individuals or individual groups. The purpose being to attract the widest possible attention. It is not intended as personal instruction. But then if you're an anarchist or a Marxist and all these different, then yeah, that works in there. But as a whole, if you try to change nations, because that's ultimately what they're doing, you're getting rid of nations with laws and putting everybody into these new incorporated digital ID city-state platform that the elite actually run with your consent. It says, enter educate, using entertainment as propaganda. The young audience is likely to be more vulnerable to messages presented in the context of entertainment than to other communications that might tend to raise questions about the legitimacy of foreign ideas. Propaganda, dissemination of ideas and information for the purpose of inducing or intensifying specific attitudes and actions. An example, because propaganda is frequently accompanied by distortions of fact and by appeals to passion and prejudice, it is false and misleading. Now, that final sentence is exactly what is playing out right now, because propaganda is frequently accompanied by distortions. So this is where you're getting all the distortions on all sides in this propaganda war now of the facts. So they only have to distort the facts. You know, a bomb might have hit. Oh, but it didn't actually do or carry out what they said it did, but they've got images to support it. But you're not getting doctor's logs, you're not getting autopsy logs, you're not getting death certificates. It's half-baked, and they call it fact. You know, there's no... You'd have a trail. If there were 600 people dead, by now we'd have 600 autopsies, we'd have 600 death certificates. Nowhere to be found, no doctor. Can you see? There's no chain of evidence in all this propaganda. That's how you know it's propaganda. It doesn't mean to say that bad things are not happening. They are. But as it says there, distortions of the fact is enough. Because then it appeals to the passions. It appeals, more importantly, to the prejudices that are already existent. Because it's false and it's misleading. So that's all they need, is to lead you off the truth of it, and off you go, triggered in passion and prejudice and whatever else it is that tickles your fancy. Yeah, so that's basically the backdrop to what it is that they're up to. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of interesting things showing themselves to me as I read through a lot of this stuff. And that is, there's a huge move back from all levels of society. And I think that's essential, that elites themselves realise that following that game that they've got going, that they tell you is for your safety, isn't. They're just using you, but they're going to take everything you have, because you'll be a threat to them down the line. And in the protocols, it's very clear about that. And so this awakening does appear to be ground roots, but up there as well. You know, the WF haven't had all the way this year. The excitement that they had through the book script wasn't there at all this year. In fact, in a lot of cases, they were facing contemptuous, attitudes towards some of these IT types that were talking at some of these meetings. So they're on a bit of a panic, because that's good, because it has to be. If it's just a ground up, it'll just get quashed. It's got to be at all levels that people are starting to realise that this is not in the best interest. This is not in the best interest for the business, for the finance, for themselves right now, but for their offspring and the future offspring. It's not a good gig by any means. You always want to get them that love it, because those they're interested in, I feel safe, oh, thank you very much, I'll suck the shit out your ass. There are plenty. But people are starting, you can see that, and the protesting that is going on all over the show is showing that, especially the way that the Israelis are protesting in Israel, which you're not getting on the mainstream. But they're really outraged at what Netanyahu's doing. Really outraged, because that's exactly what it is. This is not people's fighting, but the prejudices and the hurt is trying to be massage. Basically, when you get into what's actually gone on that day, you're looking at this. The Israel is shadowboxing itself, because Hamas is the same. The intelligence side of it. Let's get away from people. They want you to see it's Jews' fault. They want you to see Palestinians are evil. Okay? Quite correct. Hamas are evil. Israeli intelligence are evil. All the intelligence agencies you could class as evil, because they're the buffer zone and sort of the executors for the whole game in everybody's country for these elites. But obviously, they're not right at the top level. There's bigger orders at the top of that are pushing and moving the intelligence. But ultimately, the intelligence was built through the East Indies and all these corporations, these big mammoth companies. And then we're put on the land to do the same that they were doing in China, in India, in all the places they colonised, once the Hanoverians got on, and thus the Prussians took full control, that's what we've had. They've set up everything. Everything that we've ever experienced, our ancestors' experience is a setup, and it's a setup in order to move everything in the direction that they want it to go, which is you lot annihilate yourselves because you believe in something that they've issued and said this is how it is, and God said you better crack on. That's how they've managed to be so successful. There are kickbacks occasionally, of course, but ultimately they just keep on going. They've got way too much power. Because people have been off the game for so long, it's quite worrying, isn't it, you know? Now this I thought were interesting. That this week we've got 2 Vatican trials are coming to head this week and posing uncomfortable questions to the Holy See, or for the Holy See, given they both underscore Pope Francis, or his power as an absolute monarch and the legal, financial and reputational problems that can arise when he wields it. Well, look what they've done with all the assets they pulled in last September, to the Vatican Bank. Then they shifted it would appear, to Saudis. You know what I'm saying here? You're then going back to Reformation and starting to understand what they were talking about, them reformers, because the reformers were Catholics. We forgot. No, because it came out that it had been seen that the Vatican had been chosen to actually bring in the Antichrist. That's why it divided. Unfortunately, it got picked up by the Old Testament mindset and moved it to that. Creator Earth, God of... Yeah, I know, I've seen quite a few of his stuff. He does... Some of his stuff is quite good and I can understand his logic, but some of it is just a bit, whoa! How have you got there, lad? So, I do cock a wink now and again. I think I'm subscribed, so if it comes up, I'll always have a look at what he's doing. But, yeah, he's definitely got a different view on things, that's for sure. It says, this is Science Magazine, and it says on October 20th, the Pope's absolute power and the problems it can cause are on display in 2 Vatican trials. So, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of there because, as I said, not everything is going the way. And it's things like that showing itself that would have people at an higher level that have pulled into these copies at some point because probably it's familial, it's family line stuff. It's making them think. I watched an interview yesterday with Donald Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., is it? And Roseanne Barr. And it were an exceptionally interesting interview, really good. And he's actually quite an interesting character, you know. So, don't know, maybe you want to just have a check about what that guy's saying himself because he does seem to... He's obviously the son of a billionaire, so he does have a bit of clout, doesn't he? He's got a bit of a... But it was interesting to see. I don't know much about him, to be fair. But I used to watch Roseanne in the 90s, so I'm very well aware of Roseanne. And Roseanne made exceptional sense throughout the entire interview. So she's obviously... You know, she's not just dipping her toe into the gig. The girl knows what she's talking about. And I believe she's actually a rabbi. So, interesting. Because we have to start to recognise that they don't want it... They want us to see it as Jew versus Christian versus Muslim. The theologies, because they're off track, are definitely there now to clash. But that's not how it's supposed to be. And I spoke to a lot of Muslims in the past who said to me, they're not supposed to clash. Well, they're clashing because they're none of them operating according to their own doctrine. And that's down to the priesthoods. They're the ones that claimed authority. They're the ones that claimed knowledge of, you know, in connection with, and that you should trust them. So that's where that blame lies. However, it also lies with us. Well, I can't say us because I've not really played a game in there, but for not pulling them on it. Because when I did have a shift in there and have a look, I pulled them on it as soon as I could see it was nonsense. Now, I don't know why people don't think they can do that. Well, because they hold these people in our regard. But we shouldn't. I trust in these Western nations is way gone. You know, that idea we're gone after Second World War, but yet the mindset hasn't gone. You know, the natives here are still operating in that I trust mindset program that they've been given. And it's difficult for them to come to terms with the fact that that isn't what it is anymore. They really shouldn't be trusting anybody And we've had the first horse to show you. You can't trust the media, politicians, the Crown, their talking heads, and medical. You can't trust them. They're not operating to your benefit. The second horse, which is being launched now, is showing you that everything you believed about the multicultural garbage and all this thing about everybody wants to live in peace is utter shit. Because if you don't know and understand the term jihad and the fact that it's been besmirched by the Islamist side, you are at a serious loss and you're not seeing things as you need to see them. You know what I'm saying? A bit like a lot of Muslims are taking our natural chill state, because that's the culture we created, as soft. They think it's, well, they're going to be in for a shock of their life, aren't they, once this kicks off, if this starts to build up. You'll be in shock of your life if you think that the English are just going to stand there and let this go down. You know, it's not going to happen. You know, you think you've got protection of government. No, they wouldn't even come into it. If the English males decide that enough's enough, because they have the right to do so, yeah, because of England and its law, not United Kingdom commercial entity in a covenant with these elites at the very, very top through the temple crown. The middle temple is the gateway to the inner temple, again, an instrument of the Holy See. That's a foreign entity on this land. And once the English realise that they actually have the sanction, yeah, it's not going to be fun. So it is in all our interest to chill out. Recognise that what's going on over there is terrible, but what can you do about it? Nothing. Until Hamas stop killing, until Mossad and its associated operations stop killing, you are not going to be able to have an effect. That's the only thing that will stop things there. Not backing it, of course, by governments, which I've found rather strange, but it shows, doesn't it? It just shows who's involved with this covenant. The political people are, they're as individuals. You know, they've pretty much shown themselves as acting foreign and contrary to the nation. See it that way. See it that way. But of course they obfuscate it and you think you're operating for the Crown and Rule Britannia. No, there's so much to be known, but if you've been following this malarkey, you'll know the crack. So now so this is the kind of stuff that's coming out because we've known about it for a long time. And you know, I've seen the trails of money, I've seen the movements of everything. I mean, what, back in the day, they were in Afghanistan, when it probably 2008, and I was picking up our British helicopters, Chinooks, moving ISIS forces out of danger and into other things. And the internet, Intel went crazy about it. But they were being released all the time, and we were actually moving these people out of harm's way. So it's obvious who they belong to. So you've got here, it just, the United States doesn't negotiate with terrorists, we arm them. But again, a misnomer, because that makes you look at American people. It's not. It's the intelligence operations. See, the CIA, NSA, all these alphabet intelligence operations belong to the Holy See. And that's what's taken over America. So it's not Americans doing it, it's because the state's been took over, like every state has. You know, whether you're Iran, whether you're Iraq, wherever you live, your nation has been taken over at elite level by this statism. And I mean, if we look, you've got, I mean, just look at how ridiculous it is. He's running around on the, okay, he does oppose it a bit, but 650 grand between April and June just on private jets and RAF. So they're actually hiring off the RAF as well. Yeah. And so this HS2, it looks a bit dodgy because they bought all the land, compulsive purchase order, at top whack price. So somebody wanted the land, let's put it that way. They got it by paying top whack, compulsory purchase, but now they're going to sell it because he's decided not to do it. And they're going to sell it cheap. So obviously that's a game being set up because that's all being sold to who? The people at the top, innit? The people at the top are having it. You know, now Keir Starmer, biggest back. So he says like Labour wanted longer lockdowns. They ruined Wales. They've ruined London, and they don't know what a woman is, and they're pushing up this secure Starmer. All that, but then look at this. This is where you really start to get into the game. He is a trilateral commission boy. He's Jeffrey Epstein. He's Secure Starmer. That's Kissinger. That's WEF. It's Epstein. That's the guy, Keir Starmer, who prevented the CPS from investigating Jimmy Savile. Now, it's missed something out there. I don't know why it's gone back to the beginning, but it comes on with Kissinger, which is interesting because now we have to shift over. We just have to shift over to here, and if I just come over here, I need to come over. It might get a bit excited here because you've got. Where have I got it? Oh, I've not brought it up here. I've gone out. Oh, here we go. So, the Trilateral Commission, a big part of its game was that it was the operation around the round table. So, in fact, before I do that, I'll come back in here and I'll just put us on this because Cecil Rhodes, Mineral Group, all this stuff going on in South Africa way back in the day, right? They created something, a supranational, so like Committee 300 gig, around Cecil Rhodes and his idea of the round table, so mimicking Arthur. And this is what we're at. So it's good because there's a lot of old school stuff coming back because the younger generations don't really know this stuff. So around the round table, you've got Council, so you've got CFR, United Nations, Bilderberg, Club of Rome, Royal Institute of National Affairs, and the Trilateral Commission. Now I know you're all very well aware of a lot of the others, but the Trilateral Commission doesn't really get much of a speak. But that's Kissinger, okay, and that is a big pusher of the Kalergi plan, which is the mover of all this immigration, right? Now, what they want you to do Germany especially have done all this, okay? They've washed them in, and they're screwed because there's a bigger amount of immigrants than there are Germans. They're in trouble, and now all of a sudden Kissinger coming out giving it this. I was quite, because I've known about this for a long time, but this is what Henry has to say. Uncle Henry.
Mistake to let in so many people.
Let me start that again.
It was a grave mistake to let in so many people of totally different cultural and religious and concepts, because it creates a pressure group inside each country that does that. It was a grave mistake.
Okay, so now he's coming out and saying it was a big mistake, but they were the ones that demanded it. Yeah? Just have a little look at this Trilateral Commission. It says, behind closed doors, of course, they are meeting this weekend in Lisbon. Now, this was in 1992, okay? So we've known about this, how dodgy this lot are. It says, some call them a shadow government, the establishment, the global elite that runs the world. But, of course, it's a round table. This is an offshoot. CFR, Club of Rome, which is pushing your climate, UN, and then you've got WHO and UNESCO under that. Yeah? Royal Institute of International Affairs, and the Council on Foreign Relations. That's the shadow government, and it's the round table. It's depending on which conspiracy theory you subscribe to, the Trilateral Commission has found its way into many. This 90-year-old organisation is anti-American, anti-democratic, anti-Christian, or anti-worker, and is scheming ultimately to abolish sovereignty of nations and establish a one-world government. So they made everybody put these immigrants in, and now Kissinger, this is how much they take the piss out of people. He's now, oh, it's all your fault. It's honestly, it's so ridiculous what these guys do. Obviously, members of the Trilateral Committee say it's preposterous. So it's merely a discussion group on world affairs composed of high-level corporate and public policy types from North America, Western Europe and Japan. The Commission seeks only to promote international cooperation for the betterment of everybody, nothing sinister. So that's that. Sorry. Educated people have no idea what the Trilateral Commission is or what it does. Even its former members include George Bush and Jimmy Carter. That's Daddy George Bush. There is a shroud of mystery around it. The press secretary for Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton's presidential campaign didn't even know that Clinton is on it. So Bill Clinton's one of them. They did in the 90s what did they do to Yugoslavia? They annihilated it. Paul Volcker, Federal Reserve System, yeah. Akio Morita, Chairman and Chief Executive of Sony, the Japanese Chairman, and Count Otto Lambsdorff, leader of Germany's Free Democratic Party, the European Chairman. Remember, this is 92. Who else is on it? Well, AT&T, ITT, Xerox, Mobile X, the Chase Manhattan, First Chicago, General Electric, GI Double, Archer Daniels, Midland, PepsiCo, RJ Nabisco, Goldman Sachs, not to mention Nissan, Toshiba, Fujibank. And so its former foreign policy bureaucrats as Henry Kissinger, Zbigniew Brzezinski, who hated Russia, Robert S. McNamara and George Shultz, and 5 US senators including John D. Rockefeller and Tom Foley, House Speaker. Handful of women including Catherine Graham of the Washington Post, Mayor Tom Bradley for Los Angeles, Ted Danson, all these people, but of course you never really get to hear that any as members of them over here in Blighty. Well, that's Sir Keir Starmer. So that means Peter Mandelson, it means Tony Blair, yeah, it means Gordon Brown, Alistair Campbell. All those people were operating under this Trilateral Commission, which is why it managed to keep itself as though it was outside the establishment, because it had to do, because it was Labour, weren't it? It's supposed to be the working man's gig. So that's 1992, where they're giving you quite a lot. He says, unlike the TC, the Bilderberg Group, he's talking about Bilderberg. The Bilderberg Steering Committee basically implements the EU's agenda and pulls in everybody it needs, basically. Now, of course, you can get a bit deeper into it if you like with the Wikipedia. It's a non-governmental international organisation aimed at fostering closer cooperation between Japan, Western Europe, North America. But of course, its tentacles are way longer than that. Founded in 1973 by American banker David Rockefeller. Okay, so it's a Rockefeller gig. Yeah, so, I mean, you've got all this is, Zbigniew Brzezinski, Columbia University, Edwin Reichschauer, Harvard, George S. Franklin Smith, Henry D. Owen, Max Konstam, Robert R. Bowie, Marshall Hornblower, Tadashi Yamamoto. Who's he for? William Scanton. So you know that's the gig. There are all these lot down here, but you never get to hear or see any Brits in it, do you? You know what I mean? It's as though we're so secretive here on Blighty. It's quite ridiculous. You can only find out anything about these operations in this country by going via America, because he'd had all the freedom thing set up. I mean, just look at that. You know, there's a lot of people, and all these people have had power. You know, Aspen Institute's in there, so that's like your American Tavistock. It's just, yeah, it's just ridiculous. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, you know, they're all in there. You'll find them. Jimmy Carter, you know, Michael Chertoff, Nicholas Burns, Nicola Brewery and Bremer. They're all in there. So that's the Trilateral Commission. So if you want to have an idea of what Yonmon's all about, it's Keir Starmer and obviously the new Labour gig that they're all playing. That's what you're seeing. So I don't want to miss stuff out here because I spent a bit of time putting this one. Now, let's have a look. Propaganda, we said, didn't we? Some really interesting, the hospital that they said got bombed and didn't get bombed. It got bombed on the car park. The 600 casualties never happened. All that malarkey. Still, a lot of people are not seeing the opposite sides to that because they're still running with that script. But it's pretty clear that that is not the case. So this hospital suggests to me that because it was a psyop, is involved with something that's important, and that seeking that might give an insight into what's actually going down. And it says an assessment by French military intelligence indicates that the most likely cause of the deadly explosion was... Hang on, that's gone off. Oh, I'm doing a bit quick, so I've gone a bit crap. I can't read these two fast enough. Right. So basically, this hospital is very famous, and it's been on since 18... hang on, we go back to the first one and I'll have to read really quick. The cause of the deadly explosion at Gaza City's Al-Hali Hospital was a Palestinian rocket. Now, I've come across a lot of reports have said that, intelligence reports and everything, that it was actually. It says at a press conference later on Tuesday, the minister said that the hospital was given assurances by the Church of England that it was safe to continue operations. So they were told to carry on. Church of England, what's that doing in there? 1882 it's been apart. Okay? So there's a bit more to this hospital than meets the eye. Okay, now it's Episcopal Church in Jerusalem is that running that hospital. Okay, the Al-Ali Hospital, which I thought were rather interesting and sinister. 1882 that was set up. Yeah, and the Church of England beforehand said it could carry on. It was safe to continue operations. Now, when I looked at Netanyahu, he looked surprised actually that he'd been attacked. So I did get the feeling that he didn't know, which maybe he wouldn't know if it wasn't actually an Israeli shell. So that, I would say, satisfying the obfuscation of facts, would it not? And certainly firing up passion and prejudice, is it not? That's definitely doing a little bit of that. And if we just go back over here. The Episcopal Church of Jerusalem in the Middle East is a province of the Anglican Communion. The primate of the church, blah, 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 blah. And this is what's running that hospital, and that told it was safe. So obviously I'll put these up for you to have a look at when we're done. But yeah, if they're going to do a PSYOP, they're going to want to do it somewhere that they control. Are they not? But I was very surprised to find Church of England in there, exceptionally surprised. And it says the Arab People's Hospital is hospital in Gaza City. It's headquartered located in Zutoin neighbourhood in the south of the city, and it is managed by the Episcopal Church of Jerusalem. Founded in 1882, it's one of the oldest hospitals in the city. The hospital has been in operation since 1882 and was founded by the Church Mission Society of the Church of England. Later, the hospital was managed between 1954 and 1982 by the Medical Mission of the Southern Baptist Convention. And they're in the United States, so it's been taken over by Southern Baptist, it would appear. Known then as the Baptist Hospital. Since 1980, the hospital has been run by the Episcopal Church, again, back to the original. It is supported by international charities such as Embrace the Middle East. At 7:30 Eastern Time, 14th of October 2023, the Hospital Diagnostic Cancer Treatment Centre was damaged by rockets, causing 4 hospital staff members to be injured and severely damaged 2 of its upper floors, with the mammography and ultrasound departments affected the most. So, yeah. So they're still saying it here, actually, that it killed 600. Now, I've seen that it possibly isn't, but I don't know. According to preliminary tolls by the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry, so we're going to trust them, are we? This explosion led to the deaths of 200 to 500 Palestinians. Well, it can't be 200 to 500, can you? It tells you don't know. You know what I'm saying? An injury of more than 600 others. Now, that's looking like it's complete nonsense because it landed in the car park. But, again, I leave that to your discretion. But interesting, would you never have thought, would you? You just, oh, an hospital over there, how terrible. But no, it's the Church of England hospital, Baptist from America, run by the Episcopal Church in Jerusalem. Interesting. Just have a little quick talk, see if there's anything in there. There's a lot in there, look. Okay. Okay, so it might be worth you chipping over to the talk on this one, because there's a lot of stuff that they took off. So people have put a lot up there and it's been taken off. So well worth a little tinkle on that. So I just thought, let's have a look at what is this this mass immigration? How is it affecting our culture? I think, because we need to know, don't we? How is it actually affecting our day-to-day culture, our expected morality of people?
Fuck. Yo, it's not a fucking toilet. It's not a toilet now. Fuck off. What could have been the toilet wiping your ass in the toilet? You're not carrot working. I'll fucking sling you out of there. You're shitting in the fucking thing.
God, she's joking. She's actually from London. Oh my God, that's even worse. I mean, I just thought that's outrageous. I thought I'd share that with you because it's a bit naughty. Wouldn't you agree? It's a little bit naughty, is that stuff, to be honest. Now, if we go back to what I was saying about elites, that it is my contention that it's actually, what we're actually dealing with is, man, elites, forget the gods and the goddesses, this is man's will and this is what they've decided to do and we've all followed it. Let's have a look. Where do I get such from? But of course, this is exactly because I'm listening to what they're saying. You know what I mean? Which is imperative, as we've all come to learn. But there's no arguing.
The growing human population.
So listen, I'll pull that bit out to you because we did
What
this.
do you see as the biggest challenges in conservation?
The growing human population. Because if where we are, there's nothing else.
And do you have views about what should be done about that?
Can't you guess?
Just listen to from we. He said, listen.
Growing human population. Because if where we are, there's nothing else.
Where we are.
And do you have views about what should be done about that?
Can't you guess?
What do you think to that, Malaki? Is that not so just in your face, guys, telling you exactly?
What do you see as the biggest challenges in conservation?
Do you know what I'm saying? You can't argue this stuff.
Growing human population. Because if where we are, there's nothing else.
And do you have views about what should be done about that?
Can't you guess?
Can't you guess? Just like that. Shit, man. Do you know what I'm saying? If you're listening to what they're saying and not fapping on with the map, it's everywhere to see. This is just a class war being created because they're terrified they're going to lose their power. Which I think is sad. You know, most people out there don't actually want the whole system to break up. People at the bottom are not interested in people at the top having more than them. They've probably worked for it. They've had it inherited. We accepted that kind of idea. You know, everybody, we need at all levels need to start to recognise this is not a good gig that's being set up for none of us, especially given the fact they've set up so much to take your wealth off you. They've done it. They're doing it. And I've been for a long time, Jesuits, going back 1600s. When as a book, I've got it on website, actually. It explains how they set it up. Way back to take people's wealth. On the back of what? Nostradamus had told Catherine de Medici. Nothing elite about them. No, they are. They're exceptionally intelligent people. They're exceptionally well-connected people. you can't take that away from them. But yeah, it's not good what they're doing, because it's called greed, it's called self, which, but they present you with all these religious morals and say, no, you have to live like this. Well, it's turned you into cattle, so that whichever one of the three you may choose, you're still going to do as you're told. You're still going to do as you're told, basically, by whomever it is you're holding high regard. You know what I'm saying? It's a bit like, whoa, geezers, get a grip. What are you playing at, you know, jobs? Where am I? Hey, so that's that. Now, what have we got on here? Now, this again, I don't know whether this is being pelled out telly or not, but this is what's going on. Jews in Israel. They're not happy. Get out, Netanyahu. They want the children back. I don't know whether you've seen that stuff on. That's Israel. Everybody out. And this is what they want. Because they're in pain. Just like Hamas is. So they're saying, take Netanyahu and return our children to us. It's not a bad idea. But the Hamas don't want Netanyahu, do they? Because they're part of it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh. What else have we got here? Okay, so we'll shift off that, because I think I've made my point of what I'm trying to say about. I don't think this is about gods and goddesses and eternal damnation. This is about elite man, and they want you gone.
And responsibility to be the sponsor of Bill S-233, which we've just commenced study of in the Senate Standing Committee on Finance. The bill would introduce a framework to develop a guaranteed livable basic income. Right now is the fact that we are struggling throughout this country with homelessness, food insecurity, poverty, health, mental health issues, and this is one way that we could start to look at these issues. It's not the only way, but it's certainly a key way.
So if we get another lockdown, folks, they're going to demolish what remains of our businesses that have managed to keep going since the first ones, because that's exactly what it's about. First, they got you to sack yourself on the furlough so they could make you sign a new contract. Remember?
Honor and responsibility to be the sponsor of Bill S-233.
So it's the same video, I didn't know, but Canada is going to be the first nation to have this universal basic income put in, and so the lockdowns that they're going to try and pull through on whatever it is what they need next to pull that out and get everybody on basic income, where you're going to be basically eating cockroaches, they've told you, haven't they? That is exactly what they've told you, isn't it? So this is very interesting, and this goes back to 1992. She doesn't look anything like she's been looking in the last 10 years. This is a young Pelosi.
But Environmental Leadership Act, as this is known, presents us with an opportunity to follow up on the important work of the Earth Summit to develop its blueprint, Agenda 21, for global environmental action. HCON Res 353 outlines a comprehensive national strategy for sustainable development in accordance with the principles of Agenda 21, to be coordinated under the leadership of a specific office and at the direction of a high-level government official.
So that's Club of Rome, that's shadow government, yeah? But what I want you to understand is Agenda 21 is basically the agenda for the 21st century, but they have key markers. The first key marker in this game is 2020, which we've done. The second is 2025. The third marker is 2030. And the fourth marker is 2050. Yeah, so Agenda 21 is the agenda for the 21st century because they're dealing in 100 years gig, remember? And we've got those 4 marker points where they have to have achieved certain things. It really does on us. And as I've said this week, you've seen that not everybody...
The resolution also urges the United States to identify and initiate further agreements to protect the global environment and to support the creation of a high-level United Nations Sustainable Development Commission headed by an Undersecretary General. Third and lastly, the President is urged to report to Congress on the progress made on the with this action. HCON Res 353 is supported by the administration. I have been in contact with the appropriate offices of the State Department and have incorporated their suggestions into the resolution.
So there's your beginnings of it. It started, Americans backed it. That looks like the Democrats to me, does it not? So how are they now dealing with this awakening of everybody's, they're not getting away with what they're getting away with. I think Charles has actually come out and suggested people don't listen. Don't actually listen or take notice of what's going on social media. But this is how Bill Gates has sort of approached it.
The presence of social media plus a pandemic is a combination that's never been tried before. And nobody would have predicted that I and Dr. Fauci would be so prominent in, really kind of evil theories about, did we create the pandemic? Are we trying to profit from it? And on and on. And so, I'm very surprised by that. I hope it goes away. I hope it doesn't hold back, mask wearing or seeking out vaccines.
I mean, it's the sinisterness of it. Any the way he says it, it's like, what are you talking, man? You're off your head. But that's because they know what they're doing. And when he's talking and he says we and they're preventing. It's we're looking after ourselves. We're preventing you lot from causing us a problem. If you look at it like that, then you're seeing what they're saying and not believing what you think they're saying. Because they're not, they're laughing at you. And this is interesting.
Elites across the world trust each other more and more. So we can come together and design and do beautiful things together. The bad news is that in every single country they were polling, the majority of people trusted that elite less. So we can lead, but if people aren't following, we're not going to get to where we want to go.
The elites are coming together. They're starting to be friendly. They're not kicking each other's heads in. They've realised that they need to kick our heads in. That's WF, chaps. This is, it can't be any more blatant, really. If you're looking for what it is that's actually going on, and then you're going, is it God? And, well, they want you to see it that way. Because then you're not looking at terra firma. Same with aliens. If you're looking at aliens, you're not looking at the ground that you can do something in. You can achieve something there. You can't really achieve it. Sorry.
That's also, of course, true with it, right? We are all only as healthy as our neighbors in our street, in our city, in our region, in our nation, and globally. Did we solve that? Did we actually manage to vaccinate everyone in the world? No. So highlighting water as a global commons and what it means to work together and see it both out of that kind of global commons perspective, but also the self-interest perspective, because it does have that parallel. It's not only important, but it's also important because we haven't managed to solve those problems which had similar attributes. And water is something that people understand. Climate change is a bit abstract. Some people understand it really well. Some understand it a bit. Some just don't understand it. Water, every kid knows how important it is to have water. When you're playing football and you're thirsty, you need water. So there's also something about really getting citizen engagement around this and really, in some ways, experimenting with this notion of the common good. Can we actually deliver this time in ways that we have failed miserably other times? And hopefully we won't keep failing on the other things, but anyway.
So can you see how I said everything's not gone their way, but now they're going to use water specifically. So they're probably going to move off the climate change at some point and just start to move it to water. So I'd be interested to see how they're going to do that here in Blighty, because it pisses down all the time. So much so that I'm quite sure a lot of these immigrants are going to quick off back over channel. Pretty smart. So what's this?
Ovih dana u švicarskom Davosu održava se konferencija takozvanog Svjetskog ekonomskog foruma, najopasnije međunarodne udruge svijeta. Nju čine korporacije, milijarderi, lobisti i s njihovim novcima izabrani političari, a njezin osnivač je notorni Klaus Schwab. Ne postoji veća opasnost za vladavinu prava, demokraciju i slobodne tržište od te sekte, koji su njihovi privatni financijski interesi ispred interesa čovječanstva. Radi se o najvećoj umreženoj organizaciji svjetskih konspiratora, koja stvara sve agende kojima svjedočimo posljednjih desetljeća. Ratove, pandemije i politike takozvanih zelenih tranzicija, koje rezultiraju osiromašenjem i patnjama milijarda ljudi diljem svijeta. Nasuprot njihovom istovremenom enormnom bogaćenju. Tamo se kreiraju zločudne ideje koje kasnije u detalja razrađuju mediji i političari u njihovom vlasništvu. Ta skupina sama sebe navodi da globaliziranim svijetom najbolje upravlja samo odabrana koalicija multinacionalnih korporacija, vlada i organizacija civilnog društva. Pritom misle, sami smo sebe odabrali, ne idemo na nikakve izbore, a vladamo. Treba li tome išta dodati? Svjetski ekonomski forum po definiciji je najveći kreator korupcije u svijetu. Tamo se oni s tisućama milijarda eura susreću s onima koji posjeduju političku moć u državama diljem Europe i svijeta. Svake godine deseci čelnika pohađaju Davos kako bi tamo primili naredbe koje moraju provesti u narednom razdoblju, što oni sa zadovoljstvom i provode, jer znaju da bez te sekte ne bi ni bilo njihovih političkih karijera.
Right, so that's coming from some, I don't know whether it's Russian or whether it's one of the Slav nations, but that's basically, you're getting that. Now let's say they want you to see that it's actually Vlad, but and it is Russian. Let's just have a, so let me just put you on here, so we can see. So it's been said, or Vlad said in the past, I don't think this is a recent thing, he said the Rothschild cabal have infiltrated your government, your media, your banking institutions. They are no longer content with committing atrocities in the Middle East. They are now doing it on their own soil to complete the plan for the one world government, one world army, complete with a world central bank, signed off Vladimir Putin. Now, okay, that's fine, we know that that's going on. But what's going on in Russia? Because again, it doesn't look any different than what we get in our headlines. So the first one is, Russia's foreign ministry is working on simplifying visa-free travel with China. And that's from the news.ru. Russia has withdrawn from a cross-border cooperation agreement with Finland. So that's not going down right well. And that's the Nakunun. Russia begins testing a social rating system. But is it legal? Anna Rudneva. So again, it's all the same shit. And if he's going in with China, they're going to insist that he puts this thing in. But it's all being run by the same elites. China, India, Russia, America, everybody. We're all under these, under this umbrella of these elites. The deputy chairman of the Bank of Russia said the transition to completely non-cash forms of payment is not expected in the near future, while noting that the share of non-cash payments in Russian retail has already exceeded 81%. So they're already pushing electronic currency, electronic payment in Russia. Does that sound any different? Does that make him separate from what he calls the Rothschilds empire? No, it's garbage. A proposed bill being prepared for consideration in the State Duma will compel Russian businesses to share with the government data that can be used for making decisions for public administration and AI development, or AI Novosti. See, I think what Russia's doing is Russia is capturing some of the Slav states, the Serbians, Croatians, all these, and the Clinton were a part of it, because in those countries they do still hold on to the old school ideas. They still understand the history in its reality, who did what, where and when. And I think if they get on side with Vlad will be the very means of removing that in those Slavic nations. So that's what I'm seeing. Over the 9 months of 2023, Russia issued 225,000 visas in all categories in European countries. This is 10% less than for the same period in 2022. And that's the Vedomosti. Russia's Ministry of Defence rejected the registration of the conservative traditionalist political party for the family, citing the fact that some of its founders from the prominent Orthodox Christian group 40 times 40 had previously been involved in bankruptcy proceedings. The group criticised the ministry's decision, claiming that they had been treated worse than a kebab stall. Commerçant kebab stall. Privatisation's next victim in Russia is vodka, and that's from the Free Press. Crimea plans to receive more than 1 billion rubles by the end of the year from the sale of nationalised assets seized from Ukrainian oligarchs. RIA Novosti. Former German Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder said that in 2022 he actively tried to mediate between Russia and Ukraine to help solve the conflict between the countries, and that's the Nakanoon. Well, Uncle Sam and NATO ain't going to allow that. Clinical studies of the updated Sputnik V and Sputnik Light vaccines are close to completion, according to Gamaleya Center Director Alexander Ginsberg, and that's from TASS. The Ministry of Digital Development has published a draft resolution outlining how digital passports can be used. The Ministry proposed that digital passports should serve as a valid form of ID when purchasing alcohol or tobacco, when visiting a museum or entertainment event, when boarding a long-distance train, when a mobile app is used to identify a customer, when citizens are receiving government services, and when Russian citizens interact with banks. Nuka-Noon. Bank of Russia designs for the new 1,000 and 5,000 ruble notes have been attacked as an attempt by the central bank to de-Christianise Russia. And that's from the Military Review. So, you know, they're bigging it up as though they were part of this Orthodox Church. I've said before, no, the Russian Orthodox Church were annihilated by the Bolsheviks from 1917 and became a foothold for the Zionist model of game. And I put a picture up on my Facebook this week showing the actual, I should have actually put it in here, shouldn't I? The amount of people, the amount of areas at back end of Russia and Kazakhstan and all that are connected to this Zionist church parading as the Christian Russian Orthodox. So they're saying now, the military, that they're actually de-Christianising Russia. So what is this Orthodox Church? Putin's visit to Beijing and Russia's Chinese path. Russian scientists have developed an import substitution purple radish that boasts an increased amount of nutrients, and that's in TASS. Do those headlines sound any different, let's face it, than the garbage that we're getting all over our media? Does it look like they're getting a different system? Does it look like they're actually in opposition to the WEF? You know, so the spiel we just saw with that guy, I don't know whether he's from a Slav nation and he really is that way out and Vlad's going to be there to knock it off. But if that's a Russian claiming, then they're no different, no better, unless he is a genuine rebel. I don't know who the guy is, you know what I'm saying? It's so rubbish. It's a shit show, all of it. They're just taking the piss out of everybody. It's ridiculous, isn't it? You know what I mean? What else have I got? So we've done shit in phone box. This is an interesting one. Because again, we're exploring, and this is what somebody has to say about it. Somebody who says he knows what he's talking about. Where am I? We're back here. Thought this were interesting.
When the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is using hysterical, spoiled people like Greta Thunberg, whose place should be in school, not on streets, to promote these reports, clearly we are dealing with a belief system and cult rather than a scientifically based organization. Carbon dioxide is a gas that currently represents 0.041% of the whole atmosphere. Despite this small percent, for decades now, campaigns are run to make people believe that man-made CO2 is the cause of the climate change. The solution proposed to fight climate change are higher taxes and more state control, as well as less rights and options for the people. Emissions must have a price that changes our behavior. This is what Ursula von der Leyen said in this plenary in 2019. Obviously, the declared objective is to change our behavior to higher taxes and prices, while fighting climate change is just a pretext to do it. People deserve a better future, but we clearly cannot achieve that by passing laws that are making them poorer, while a small elite is getting richer by selling and forcibly selling them products and services that they do not need or want, but are allegedly saving the planet. Thank you.
Mr. Terhes, you have a blue card from Mr. Kokalis. Do you accept it?
Get on.
Okay. Mr. Kokalis, you have the floor for 30 seconds.
Thank you, colleague, for accepting the blue card. I would like to ask you to explain a little bit what do you mean, what is the relationship of Greta Thunberg to the IPCC? Do you think that she's a scientist? She's part of the scientific process of the IPCC, and I would not comment on your characterization of her as a hysterical person, and I also think that she has grown beyond school age by now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question, and I'm glad that you asked this, because it is surprising that when we talk about an important topic like this, like climate change, in the media, for example, and even in this plenary, people like Greta Thunberg are more quoted than actual experts. So I'm asking you in reply, what is the expertise of Greta Thunberg, of Bill Gates, for example, to lecture us, to force us, to lobby us, to pass laws, to violate people's rights, and for them to make money? No, you answer exactly what I asked. Because if these are scientists, look, science is based on facts, not on propaganda. And everything that we heard here, it's simply propaganda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Terhes.
You have to explain to the Europeans
Mr. Terhes,
why a gas
you don't have the floor, please.
0.041% of the atmosphere is causing all these catastrophes they are claiming.
Mr. Terhes.
What a good egg. What a good one. See, they don't muck about them boys. They say it as it is. They're not scared. They're not joining the line and, oh, I want to be in, and blah-de-blah. Well done them fellas. And you don't get this on the media, do you? They're not showing you any of this malarkey. So if you're watching just the media, you're not... I mean, Twitter is a great place for picking up stuff. Just pick very carefully who you follow so that you're getting the stuff in the feed. It's a really good gig at the moment. They do seem to be moving it, trying to hit it. I'll have a quick run through who's here because... Oh no, we're only 1 hour 27. I thought he said 57. Right, so I do have some more stuff, but let's have a look at what everybody has to say. Hello, all tenants, says Charles. Yes, quite right. Unless you're under Dominion rights, you are a tenant. There we go. So, need new version of Wizard of Oz where Strawman gets implanted a chip. Well, no, because it's you that's getting implanted with chip, isn't it? Not the Strawman. Strawman's a piece of paper. Just think about that one. SCC there a bit. House in the Laughing. Okay, I don't know what I missed that. If you want an idea of where they are at with radio frequencies, Jace has put something up there, well done. And good day to you, Jace. They're able to hack our biology wirelessly already. If if you did the dance. Correct. Though I have had some, I watched a very interesting documentary with 4 experts discussing certain things, and I have to say it was good news, some of it. So things are not all as drastic and as terrifying as some of these shows put out at the beginning, that a lot of us took for granted as, oh, a lot of that's just garbage. There's so much garbage been put in mix. And it's starting to reveal itself as garbage. So, clearer minds when we know what's going on. Less fear, less angst, less silly reactions, innit? You know what I mean? We can bring things down to earth a little bit. Let's have a look. Need to leave enough to chat or it takes people away. Jay says, modern Wizard of Oz would have the heartless, the brainless and the cowards put straight into government positions as they are. Yeah, they're not all brainless, they're just shitheads. Just not into... right, okay, no. JSK, blah, blah, blah. The most worthy endeavour... No. Good evening, says Colonel Patsy. Good evening to you. Do you believe in flat earth? Me? I don't believe in anything. I try to use my mind or my brain as a processor to seek past a point of belief. I mean, I've looked at it, of course, but the heliocentric science. Let's be frank, falls flat on its ass. Make no mistake, it does fall flat on its ass as it's presented. But, they get excited, these flat earthers, and they come up with all this science and then go, ice wall. And it's like, you've been watching Game of Thrones, haven't you? That's what's put the idea of ice wall in, because you never saw that anywhere else previously. But as I say always, the jury's out, but I don't feel it's important enough for me to give it even a second of my attention. In that, flat or nay, you still can't fly over it wall. They won't let you. You can't sail up to the wall because they won't let you. So, I'm not so sure how it actually benefits the situations that we're in right now. But, the jury's out. I don't know. I can't claim to know. I really can't. I would be surprised if it isn't. But then, when you start to work on the understanding electromagnetics, torus fields, ether, this kind of stuff, then it certainly wouldn't be impossible for it to be a ball, exactly as it's been described. It would not be impossible. And then if you go one further and see it as a computer program, then as I've explained before, if you create software program, you're creating the barriers, you're telling that this can do that, that can do this, and this can do that. So then it could be whatever you wanted. And so that then the picture we've been given would play out in a software program. So again, there's all sorts of possibilities. As I said, the heliocentric science falls flat on its ass when it comes to psi, curvature, etc. But I don't care. It doesn't really matter to me. So, well, Crater Earth, yeah, that's your man, isn't it? That I looked at before that you put up, which I've looked at quite a few of his videos. He's definitely got a different view on things, and I can follow some of his logic, most of it actually, to understand how he got to that. Do I believe it as true fact and I'll run around telling everybody? No, but I'm interested. But ultimately, not that. It wouldn't change. I don't think it's going to change what I'm doing, or how I think, or how I see. So I don't really care. Sean, if you have time and it's not digressing too much, from what you're covering tonight, what do you know of the Green Man from the perspective of the mystery schools, aka the Green Knight? I know quite a lot, actually. Because of course I spent, so there's 7 in there, and then what we got to about 2006. So maybe about 13 years enveloped in the occult, and understanding it. Because if you understand that, you can understand where a lot of these forces are coming from when they're operating, when they're talking. But it'd be too. We better not get into that. Because to be honest with you, you know, when I first started on the internet, more of everything I put out had an occult angle to it, because that's what I was full of. But I've gone out my way to move away from that over the years, because it does train your mind into a small paradigm, and I think magicians don't recognise it, as it were, when you're studying that kind of stuff, when you're immersing yourself in that data. So I wanted to get away from it. You know what I'm saying? I'd have to. It's a shame I don't have my books in the library anymore, because, you know, every book I'd read, I'd made my marks, I'd put my bits in, and etc. All my notes I had as well, they were interesting. I did find some, actually, some notes when I was moving my stuff a few weeks ago, which I didn't know I had, but I didn't have a chance, obviously, to look at them. So who knows what in the future? Maybe we'll do a few more. I have touched on it occasionally in some of the older videos, and especially when it comes to the Kabbalah and how it's inverted, and people need to be aware of that if they're operating magic, Kabbalah magic. You do need to really understand why you're not being successful in your endeavours. You might have small successes, but there are keys to be known, and I'm not claiming to know them either, just to put that straight. So maybe another time there, Anthony. Janine Matos says, I hear you. Okay. Untitled says, I'm a little late. Alright, how you doing, Untitled? And he says, hit the like. Yeah, because it does move. We've had loads of subs, and it just doesn't move. It keeps going, it goes up one, then down one. It's just, I don't know how they do it. It's pretty shit, really. Hugo Bosswood says 2025-2027 is when the WEF fails. I think it should be failing now, before the peace is removed from the earth, to be quite frank with you. You know what I mean? I mean, you've got now all those that were doing the EDL and all that shit, Tommy Robinson and all that, they're now coming out going, told you so. It's like, you little fuck. No, you didn't tell us fuck all. You just had everybody raging and saying everything about Islam is evil. It's bullshit. It's the Islamist side that's the aberration, just as the Zionist side is the aberration on hanging on to the Christian ethos. He is a Zionist. He's said he's a Zionist. He's been to Israel with the Zionists. Not that he's been to Israel, but the matters, but with the Zionists. That's who he is. So he's operating in the schism, calling out the schism. So there you can see where he is. He's not feet on the ground, earth, spiritual guy who's coming on the table with the debate and saying, look, this is how it's supposed to be, the true version of what jihad is, and this is what's being pushed by the... No, he's saying that's what it is, full stop. End of story. You're not going to get the peace we need. We need the Christians, we need the Muslims, we need the Jewish people to realise. And I think these horses is what that's about, and it's working. It's working, is it not? People are getting a grip. Not everybody isn't, but don't care about them. They'll come to it in their own time, or they won't. Don't concern yourself with them. Concern yourself with people that are still there. Give them your effort, give them your time. Try and find a way in which you can get it in, because they're interested in subject matter, you know. So I'm hoping it's going to fail before then. But yeah, 2021, that's the agenda for 21st century. But the markers, 220, 225, 230, 250. They're the markers in this 100-year gig. So they're playing to 100 years, remember. Do you think you matter? Do you think you matter? You know, that you want to fight for them, you want to blah, 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 blah. No. You don't matter a shit. Because they're thinking way ahead of the game. Way ahead of the game. Hugo Boswell says, check Martin Armstrong and the Socrates, which is a computer algorithm. that has predicted most financial crashes and wars in advance. Well, you can predict the wars because when you're predicting finance, you're looking at the times when, shit, we need to kill the creditor, we're in fucking trouble, blah, 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 we might have to pay him back. So yeah, I'd agree with that. Of course they can predict financial crashes and then wars. Because the two go together. Ollie Spoke says, Mark Windows' last stream showed the Rothschilds Earth Summit and from mid-1980s worth a gander. Okie dokie. All one, evening all, good evening to you. I've just noticed it's all one. I will call it all sorts. Jesus Luke Skywalker says, yes, I watched and shared Mark's latest video. Shared a few of them besides Sean. Mark is the only other channel I know of. With a hi to everybody. Yeah, I mean, if that's correct, put some links up later if people want to get them. But somebody's got to link up. Jay's got to link up, unless it's because he's a moderator. I don't know. I don't know, because I'm not a moderator of my own frigging channel. How disgusting is that? Jay says, welcome everybody. Oh, welcome, Jace. Jace looks like such a tangled web. And huge budgets. Money isn't a question for those guys. They don't have to worry about paying their electric bills or if the rent going. Oh, as I said before, a couple of years ago I pulled together a 980 odd billion tax take year, just a year. 981 billion. So that's a tax take. So how much wealth do we have as people? We have 20 times more than that as a people, and yet we give this power to these pillocks that take a percentage, but it's enough to cause havoc. You know, I said on local politics things here, and I said, look, in Ireland we collect 47 million per year in council tax. All right, there's benefits, etc. Okay, so 47 million is paid just in council tax. That's never mind your rents, your rates, and all the rest of it. In council tax alone, Heineken picks up 47 million. You'd be lucky if the executive spends 6 million of that year. What the fuck do we need the executive for? They're a bunch of Johnny-come-fucking-latelys who we are allowing to have a take and a pull on our tax. The only way we're going to deal with this is to sideline these pillocks, make them absolutely non-essential. Same with the police, with the firemen, and all these dicks that think they can now trespass. Because some pillock called a king, who calls himself a king, is going with it. The King of Thorny Island. And you're oath to him. If you have. We don't need these positions. The police are not protecting the public, the police are protecting the corporate. The fire brigade are not protecting the public, they're protecting property. Now in the hands of the corporate. What do we need them for? They're the ones that are doing this against us. They're the ones that are facilitating all this shit. You know, 47 million, if people in Ireland, we create our own committee, we pay it to ourselves, we do our own fucking roads. We do our own everything. We put the rents down. Any properties we own, rents go right down. We encourage trade. We help farmers. We help everybody. £47 million is a lot of money. But we let these dipsticks called an executive and the happy dipstick councillors who do nothing but run around looking shit and stupid, because they are shit and stupid, and we put up with it. We let them get away with it and moan. Oh, what they're doing now to us. No, well, why are you letting them? This is the only way, action, to just say like, yeah, fuck off. We've got our own money. We're going to do the roads. We're going to do that lamppost there. That hasn't got planning permission, that tower, it's coming down. Yep. Lawyers won't underwrite it for insurance. It's coming down because you've given it planning permission, which means we're liable. It's coming down. So we'd have to remove all the liabilities that the executive has put on us. That's how you're going to have to think to change this. We can't beat them militarily. They've got all the toys. Or it would take one hell of a gig to get, because you'd have to get the toys off them first. Then you've got the toys. And then you'd have to be, you know, soldier stuff. Then you're talking serious tackle. But not many people out there have the too. So the younger males are too busy playing with their vagina. aren't they? And looking at how big the tits are growing. Don't get me on that, for God's sake. It's a tango web, alright. Holy smokes, I didn't know that. Saw her in the news again though, staged arrest or something. I've missed something there. Oh, Greta Thunberg. Oh, God's sake, what a complete con. It was child abuse when she was a kid, that their parents and the state moved her to that. A bit like, I said to Brian Gerrish, what are you doing with this, Ollie Gregg? The only abuse I'm seeing is you lot shoving her out on front of everybody, talking garbage and collecting data off people that are sending you in, and then you're doing nothing about it. You sounded like Childline that Esperanza set up just so that they could capture any accusations against elites coming from the public. Same gig, Ollie Gregg. That were abuse, pulling around everywhere. Same with Greta Thunberg when she was a flea bag. Now she's of age, I think, and she can make her own mind up. They are exceptionally intelligent. Of course they are, but they are narcissistic, which is exactly why they're chosen. Or sociopathic, or even psychopathic. Those are the creatures they want. They've created them in the schools, picked up the ones that pick it up the best. The rest are not conforming and being told the special needs. Off they go. Into another corporate operation that's charging the taxpayer a shitload of money to further push these kids that are saying, no, I'm not conforming, into confirmation and do what you're told. It's money. It's all about the money, and that's where everything they do is about money. It's not about you. It's not about care for you, your offspring, your property, your license, your business, anything. It's so important you get it through your minds with this next gig for lockdowns. You mustn't comply. You really mustn't comply, guys. And you don't go, oh, I didn't comply in any way, shape or form through any of that shit that went in that series. I didn't wear a mask. I didn't touch a test. I didn't die. I didn't die. Okay? And even people that were vaccinating me always wanted to come out and hug me. And I let them hug me. That's how I managed to feel that they had a bad vibe on them for about 30 days. That then disappeared. I'm not dead. Okay, I picked up some odd things twice. I did. And I know first. So what? I trust my immune system. I trust it a lot more than I trust Roland Rat, i.e. Fauci, or William Gates. I trust my immune system way more than them. So, and that's how I'll go. Do not comply. Because if they get it again, these lockdowns, they will wreck what's left of business. You know, people have to start thinking like this. You're not in. You're not safe if you think you're in with that. You're alright for now while they have a use for you. Off with feed. Creative Evan says, Mark is interesting, but he had Piers Corbyn and David Shaler on his show. Corbyn, I watched him when he were opposition. Because I didn't really know much about him, because I've never really bothered much about Labour. I've just fought them, basically, locally, because they were the ones in power. So I know what kind of power grip they have and who's playing around locally here. But I've always been a conservative outlook on life, man, you know what I'm saying? Piers Corbyn, at every Prime Minister's Question Time, in his entire time as leader of the opposition, would not accept anything except United Nations. No matter what the discussion were, he would pull the United Nations in. Every single time he did that. Let me just think, have I got anything else here? I think I might have. That actually... so Chairman Committee on Defence House of Commons says we need to get on a war footing. UN, there we go. She's talking about humanitarian aid and such. Now, this is British Jews demanding freedom and equality for Palestinians. Yeah? Not going to get that on news, are you? That's Jewish people, real Jewish people. And in the UK, we have a WEF King, WEF Prime Minister, WEF Government, Leader of the Opposition Party, and WEF Media. We've got that in place, and there you go, you little pop star and your little actor. Yeah, that will.i.am, the toss bag, and that shit bag there. Who made the white race look terrible with one of Tarantino's films. Powerful Saudi prince breaks ranks to condemn Hamas. Good man. And we have a mass chief who lives in London in a council house. And he's still operational. Yeah? He got 120 grand discount on his house. And son of a mass leader blows whistle and says they are a globalist psyop group. Like we didn't know. And Macron calls for ruthless deportation of all migrants with ties to Islamic extremists. From France. And there you go, Tobias Elwood. He says we need to move to a war footing, and that's what he's after. Our army is simply too small, he said. Now, just going back to this humanitarian stuff, because many years ago I saw something about how they played this with Red Cross. It were actually what it were. They did a drill at a local school. I talked about it before, where they tested, part of it was to test the reaction of the parents by getting a text message saying the school wasn't going to release the flea bags from school. And it was investigating that because what they did, they set up a gig at the sports centre in Einburn for people to go that were blah blah blah, so-called. Anyway, who's in the Red Cross are in there? And I'm thinking, Red fucking Cross, what would they be doing in just a normal little incident, a spillage on the motorway? No, they were a test. So what they're testing up is, as soon as there's an accident, Red Cross are in there. You know what they were doing? It were all medical. They wanted your medical records. They were offering you vaccines. And this is in 2009. Remember, the bird flu thing were on there as well. So it was still in sync. So the Red Cross were there. And you were like, I thought, now I can see the game. This is how they destroy countries. Where am I? So, we've got to go right back over here now. And how to turn a country into a concentration camp internally. Okay, now if you look at this, you're looking at, these are blots where people have been exiled or shifted out as refugees out of their own countries. So these are all the war zones. I think I put this together in 2000 and... I don't know actually when I put it together. You might say. 2012 I put this together and it's been edited because I included some of the bug script. But it says it's about the management of. Create the problem and then manage it. Use the charitable operations to give unaccountability to your actions. Take the money and run. War is good for business. And it says today there's not a nation unaffected by the financial 9/11 of 2008 with civil unrest ever possible as the poverty begins to spread. Under such auspices, poverty is looking more and more like the likely candidate for the future expansion of internally displaced persons. Okay? So that's where they get onto internally displaced persons. Then you become indentured servants. Let me have a look. Oh, that's right. It says, so this is back about 2009. It says, with all the changes made during the 2009 flu script, the rules of the legal game have changed considerably. The achievement of fully shotted populations is a distinct possibility in this scenario because should one become even for a short time an IDP, internally displaced person, then consent will be demanded of you and those close to you if you wish to take the benefits of the camps designated to deal with displaced persons. Football stadiums also take on a rather different meaning with such information as was mentioned around the time of the summer riots of 2011. In the UK, stadiums are a useful place for concentration. We must also consider the impact under such conditions of the mass migration of peoples into Europe and the United States. So then I just go through a bit more about stuff, blah, 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 just expanding it. We've got the Contingency Act. You know, America got the Patriot Act, all on the back of 9/11. And then here you go, internally displaced persons. Again, this is a map This is from 2012, this map, and this is where they had a lot of displaced persons. So they were big in Africa, South America, Mexico, Russian Federation. And look at that, what were they doing over there? If there's no people. You know what I'm saying? If there's nobody over there, why were they doing all this? Why were they... Interesting, is it not? And again, Afghanistan, look at all the camps. So this is what they do. They have a war, or such like, and then create these camps. And then everybody's being brought in, and then it's all under medical. And if you're a good girl or a good boy, you might be sent off under a contract as an indentured servant to go and operate for these charitable trusts in another country. Even if that means as an immigrant, when you get a phone call saying get out on the street and protest, you will. Can you get my drift with that? So we've got all this. It's interesting. UNHCR, all this stuff, all involved in it. The Congo. Look at all this just in the Congo. I mean, you're talking 105,000 people in these. Let me see if I can make that bigger. No, don't want to make bigger. That want to make bigger. Yeah, that makes it a bit bigger. I mean, that's a lot of camps, isn't it? IDP families per location. USAID, UNHCR, UN Refugee Agency. It's a massive industry. But more importantly, it's a method by which they can carve up nations. Indonesia, look. Look at it. All on conflict that's created. As that Russian guy or Romanian guy were telling us, that they create these problems in order they can move things in the way they want. Papua New Guinea, Indonesia again, look at it all. All these conflicts that they've created and then set up these camps. They've got full access to the population. Burma, in the Karen districts. I mean, probably you guys are not coming to all this cold, but this is the kind of data that we were all dealing with back in the day when we were trying to understand exactly what they're doing. Philippines. Displacement and poverty is, this is what they've been doing. They took over East. And then you've got an absolute ton of links there. But let's just... The reason why I've put that is because this, as we've looked at, is the covenant. This is we get an idea of the covenant here, because here the people that are in the covenant are being told what they can and can't do. But it's specific to persons. In a capital P, so it's the descriptive. So that means anybody can be classed as a capital P person. So it's going to mean you. So these elites are in this covenant, yeah, pulling all this together. And as we saw in that video earlier, that woman was saying the elites are starting to come together because they're realising that the people are saying no. Yeah, and then we get an idea of where this covenant comes into, don't we, as it shows you in a temple. Yeah, we went through that before. We don't need to go through it again. But you know what I'm saying. But just back to this indentured servitudes, these displaced persons. So in September, Netanyahu went to the UN and announced to the world, so he telegraphed it, give you notice of what he was going to do, the new map for Israel. There were no Palestine in it. They took it off completely. Obviously, that's pissed off everybody, Hamas, Hezbollah, all the rest of them. And then we got what we got. But look at what they're doing in there. They're taking out their infrastructure, which means they're going to be dependent on these camps. Aren't they? They're already calling for aid. UN's calling for aid and bringing it in. Now that's the callings on. Everybody's going to think they're getting success because, they're not letting it in. They've let it in. Fantastic. No. This is what they're doing. They're carving up the nations of internally displaced people. Organs are going to be off. Your kids are going to be off. You're going to be killed. You'll be sent off. You're good and off to being an indentured servant. Somewhere in the big wide world operating for this goofery. So, chaps and chapesses, I think we've pretty much... we have indeed... one more thing, given that covenant that we just looked at. I'm delighted to welcome the Majesty's King and the Queen of Mansion House. I've done them too quick. And this is Inner City of London, the Mayor, Inner City Mayor, congratulating the King and Queen on the to mark the city's role in the coronation. So there you go, he's their man. Yeah, there we go. Such a deep relationship because we share core values and aspirations for the nation, which is fuck the nation, city-states, full corporate and private control by these Johnny-come-latelys and the Holy See and the families they represent at the top of the tree, and we're not invited. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's more than enough for Tasty on just another side to all this propaganda stuff that's going down. This allowing yourself to get fixed in this game and thinking it's God's playing here. The gods have disappeared a long time ago, as the ruling elite guy said. The Anunnaki are not here anymore. Or they're coming back, I don't know. I don't have a central line into the Anunnaki, so I can't tell you. Is the energy shifting so that people are going to wake up a bit more and free energy is going to be back as it has been before? I would err on the side of that potential being why they have to do this. Why they need to secure their own lifestyle, which means killing off everybody else. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'll say thank you very much for joining me. I hope you have a good week. And I will say, till the next time.
electronic